Hello and welcome to Vampire Story Time. I'm Jackie and I'll be your vampire this evening. And tonight we're going to start off with a little short one called Fox and the Cat. And we are streaming live tonight on both Facebook and TikTok. So hello TikTok, hello Facebook. Hope everybody can join us tonight for an evening of stories, mystery, and magic. And now we begin. The Fox and the Cat. It happened that the cat met the fox in a forest, and as she thought to herself, "He is clever and full of experience, and much esteemed in the world," she spoke to him in a friendly way. "Good day, dear Mr. Fox. How are you? How is all with you? How are you getting through this dear season?" The fox, full of all kinds of arrogance, looked at the cat from head to foot, and for a long time did not know whether he would give any answer or not. At least he said, "Oh, thou wretched beard cleaner, thou piebald fool, thou hungry mouse hunter, what canst thou be thinking of? Dost thou venture to ask how I am getting on? What hast thou learned? How many art dost thou understand?" "I understand but one," replied the cat modestly. What art is that?" asked the fox. "When the hounds are following me, I can spring into a tree and save myself." "Is that all?" said the fox. "I am master of 100 arts, and have into the bargain a sack full of cunning. Thou makest me sorry for thee. Come with me, I will teach thee how people get away from the hounds." Just then came a hunter with 4 dogs. The cat sprang nimbly up a tree and sat down on top of it, where the branches and foliage quite concealed her. And there's a picture of the kitty in the tree. Can you see the little kitty in the tree? Yeah, she's a clever girl. You can't see it, but my cats are listening. They're being very good right now. Although if we're lucky, maybe one of them will join us. Open your sack. "Oh, open your sack, Mr. Fox. Open your sack," cried the cat to him. But the dogs had already seized him and were holding him fast. "Ah, Mr. Fox," cried the cat, "you with your 100 arts are left in the lurch. Had you been able to climb like me, you would not have lost your life." And that's it. I think.
Not on Facebook.
It says I'm live.
Oh, okay. Mine is my thing, I guess. Might just be me.
Oh, maybe. Sorry, having an issue with the Facebook live feed. Apparently it's not doing the thing. Oh, here we go. Okay. Hello, Facebook Live. You missed the first story. Sorry, that was completely my fault. It was a short one, and to summarize, foxes are apparently very arrogant, and cats are super good at climbing trees. That is the entire story and moral. And there's a picture that you missed. See it there? Okay. So let's see. Is there another? Well, there's another short one. I am going to be reading The Juniper Tree tonight. That's the big to-do. But I figured I would start with a couple shorter stories just to make sure that everybody has time to go ahead and tune in for the main event. So we've got a couple of opening acts, so to speak. So let's see. The Willow Wren. That's nice. I like a wren. In former days, every sound still had its meaning and application. When the smith's hammer resounded, it cried, "Strike away, strike away." When the carpenter's plane grated, it said, "Here goes, here goes." If the mill wheel began to clack, it said, "Help, Lord God, help, Lord God." That's not what I would expect a mill wheel to say, but sure. If the miller was a cheat and happened to leave the mill, it spoke High German. Sure, buddy. And first asked slowly, "Who is there? Who is there?" And then answered quickly, "The miller, the miller." And at last, quite in a hurry, "He steals bravely, he steals bravely, 3 pecks in a bushel." It makes sense. Yeah, that tracks. That's what I would expect a mill wheel to say in High German. Sure. At this time, the birds also had their own language, which everyone understood. Now it only sounds like chirping, screeching, and whistling, and to some like music without words. It came into the birds' mind, however, that they would no longer be without a rule to discuss the matter, and on a fine May morning they all gathered together from the woods and the fields, eagles and chaffinches, owls and crows, larks and sparrows. How can I name them all? Even the cuckoo came, and Huppu, his clerk, who is so called because he is always heard a few days before him, and a very small bird, which as yet had no name, mingled with the band. The hen, which by some accident had heard nothing of the whole matter, was astonished at the great assemblage. What? What is going to be done?" she cackled. But the cock calmed his beloved hen and said, "Only rich people," and told her what they had on hand. It was decided, however, that one who could fly the highest should be king. A tree frog, which was sitting amongst the bushes, when he heard that, cried a warning, "No, no, no, no," because he thought that many tears would be shed because of this. But the crow said, "Caw, caw," and that all would pass off peaceably. This story is fucking nonsense. I love these stories. They make no goddamn sense. It was now determined that on this fine morning they should at once begin to ascend, so that hereafter no one should be able to say, "I could easily have flown much higher, but the evening came on, and I could do no more." On a given signal, therefore, the whole troop rose up in the air. The dust ascended from the land, and there was tremendous fluttering and whirring and beating of wings, and it looked as if a black cloud was rising up. The little birds were, however, soon left behind. They could go no farther, and fell back to the ground. The larger birds held out longer, but none could equal the eagle, who mounted so high that he could have picked the eyes out of the sun. The very eyes of the sun. And when he saw that the others could not get up to him, he thought, "Why shouldn't thou fly still higher? Thou art the king." and began to let himself down again. The birds beneath him at once cried to him, "Thou must be our king. No one has flown as high as thou." "Except me," screamed a little fellow without a name, who had crept into the breast feathers of the eagle. And as he was not at all tired, he rose up and mounted so high that he reached heaven itself. When, however, he had gone as far as this, he folded his wings together and called down with clear and penetrating voice, "I am king! I am king!" "Thou art king?" cried the birds angrily. Yes, there's a kitten here. Little Leela is making an appearance. I don't know if you can... Oh, she's just out of view of the camera. But she's here. Oh, there she is. Hi, Pee-Pee. Hey, Pee-Pee. Thou art king? Cried the birds angrily. Thou hast compassed it by trick and cunning. So they made another condition. He should be king who could go down lowest in the ground. How the goose did flap around with its broad breast when it was once more on the land. How quickly the cock scratched a hole. The duck came off the worst of all, for she leapt into a ditch, but sprained her legs and waddled away to a neighboring pond, crying, "Cheating, cheating!" The little bird without a name, however, sought out a mouse hole, slipped down into it, and cried out of it with his small voice, "I am king! I am king!" "Thou art king!" cried all the birds more angrily. "Dost thou think thy cunning shall prevail?" They determined to keep him a prisoner in the hole and starve him out. The owl was placed as sentinel in front of it, and would not let the rascal out if she had any value for her life. When evening was come, all the birds were feeling very tired after exerting their wings so much, so they went to bed with their wives and children. The owl alone remained standing by the mouse hole, gazing steadfastly into it with her great eyes. In the meantime, she too had grown tired and thought to herself, "You might certainly shut one eye. You will still watch with the other, and the little miscreant shall not come out of his hole." So she shut one eye, and with the other looked straight at the mouse hole. The little fellow put his head out and peeped, and wanted to slip away, but the owl came forward immediately, and he drew his head back again. Then the owl opened one eye again and shut the other, intending to shut them in until all through the night. But when she next shut the one eye, she forgot to open the other, and as soon as both her eyes were shut, she fell asleep. The little fellow soon observed that and slipped away. From that day forth, the owl has never dared to show herself by daylight, for if she does, the other birds chase her and pluck her feathers out. She only flies out by night, but hates and pursues mice because they make her such ugly holes. The little bird, too, is very unwilling to let himself be seen, because he is afraid it will cost him his life if he is caught. He steals about in the hedges, and when he is quite safe, he sometimes cries, "I am king!" And for this reason, the other birds call him in mockery, King of the Hedges. No one, however, was so happy as the lark at not having to obey the little king. As soon as the sun appears, she ascends high in the air and cries, "Ah, how beautiful that is! Beautiful that is! Beautiful, beautiful! Ah, how beautiful that is!" Sure! Why not? That all tracks pretty well, I think. It's fine. It's fine. Yes, we do need physical challenges for leaders. I think that's a fantastic idea. Maybe like, at least like a potato sack race, or I don't know, what kind of arm wrestling? I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit too butch. Hopscotch. I think we could get some good leaders out of a decent game of hopscotch, or double dutch. I mean, if you're not spry enough and can't keep up the rhythm to do double dutch, then you don't deserve to fucking rule. I'm sorry. Keep up. Get the fuck out. All right. So, I think now we're on to the main event. The juniper tree. Now, this is one of my favorites. It was one of my favorites when I was little. And, oh yeah, dodgeball would be fantastic. We should totally choose our rulers based on dodgeball. I'd be into that. Or at least just throw balls at our rulers. If we could the people could just lob balls at them. That would be great. Because we've definitely had enough of people in power throwing their balls at us. We got to turn it around. Yeah. Okay. The juniper tree. It is now long ago, quite 2,000 years, since there was a rich man who had a beautiful and pious wife, and they loved each other dearly. They had, however, no children, though they wished for them very much, and the woman prayed for them day and night, but still they had none. Now there was a courtyard in front of their house, in which was a juniper tree. And one day in winter, the woman was standing beneath it, paring herself an apple. And while she was paring herself the apple, she cut her finger, and the blood fell onto the snow. "Ah," said the woman, and sighed right heavily, and looked at the blood before her, and was most unhappy. "Ah, if I had but a child as red as blood and as white as snow." And while she thus spake, she became quite happy in her mind, and felt just as if that were going to happen. Then she went into the house, and a month went by, and the snow was gone, and 2 months, and then everything was green, and 3 months, and then all the flowers came out of the earth, and 4 months, and then all the trees in the world grew thicker, and the green branches were all closely intertwined, and the birds sang until the wood resounded, and the blossoms fell from the trees. Then the 5th month passed away, and she stood under the juniper tree, which smelt so sweetly that her heart leapt, and she fell to her knees and was beside herself with joy. And when the 6th month was over, the fruit was large and fine, and then she was quite still. And the 7th month she snatched at the juniper berries and ate them greedily. Then she grew sick and sorrowful. Then the 8th month passed, and she called her husband to her, and wept and said, "If I die, then bury me beneath the juniper tree." It's kind of intense. Then she was quite comforted and happy until the next month was over. And then she had a child, as white as snow and as red as blood. And when she beheld it, she was so delighted that she died. I'm going to guess, though, that was probably just from, really super high childbed mortality rates, because that was so long ago. I don't think Joy is probably the thing, but that's okay. We'll run with that. Then her husband buried her beneath the juniper tree, and he began to weep sore. After some time he was more at ease, and though he still wept, he could bear it. And after some time longer he took another wife. By the second wife he had a daughter, but the first wife's child was a little son, and he was as red as blood and as white as snow. And when the woman looked at her daughter, she loved her very much. But when she looked at the little boy, and it seemed to cut her to the heart, for the thought came to her mind that he would always stand in her way, and that she was forever thinking how she could get all the fortune for her daughter, and the evil one filled her mind with this till she was quite wroth with the little boy, and slapped him here and cuffed him there, until the unhappy child was in continual terror. For when he came out of school, he had no peace in any place. One day the woman had gone upstairs to her room, and her little daughter went up too, and said, "Mother, give me an apple." "Yes, my child," said the woman, and gave her a fine apple out of the chest. But the chest had a great heavy lid with a great sharp iron lock. "Mother," said the little daughter, "is brother not to have one too?" This made the woman angry, but she said, "Yes, when he comes out of school." And when she saw from the window that he was coming, it was just as if the devil entered into her, and she snatched at the apple and took it away again from her daughter, and said, "Thou shalt not have one before thy brother." Then she threw the apple into the chest and shut it. Then the little boy came in at the door, and the devil made her say to him kindly, "My son, wilt thou have an apple?" And she looked wickedly at him. "Mother," said the little boy, "how dreadful you look. Yes, give me an apple." Then it seemed to her as if she were forced to say to him, "Come with me." And she opened the lid of the chest and said, "Take out an apple for thyself." And while the little boy was stooping inside, the devil prompted her. And crash! She shut the lid down, and his head flew off and fell among the red apples. Then she was overwhelmed with terror and thought, "If I could but make them think it was not done by me." So she went upstairs to her room to the chest of drawers and took a white handkerchief out of the top drawer and set the head on the neck again and folded the handkerchief so that nothing could be seen. And she set him on a chair in the front of the door and put the apple in his hand. After this, Marlinchen came into the kitchen to her mother, who was standing by the fire with a pan of hot water before her, which she was constantly stirring round. "Mother," said Marlinchen, "brother is sitting at the door, and he looks quite white and has an apple in his hand. I asked him to give me the apple, but he did not answer me, and I was quite frightened." "Go back to him," said her mother, "and if he will not answer thee, give him a box on the ear." So Marlinchen went to him and said, "Brother, give me the apple." But he was silent, and she gave him a box on the ear, on which his head fell down. Marlinchen was terrified and began crying and screaming and ran to her mother and said, "Alas, mother, I have knocked my brother's head off." And she wept and could not be comforted. "Marlinchen," said the mother, "what hast thou done? But be quiet and let no one know it. It cannot be helped now. We will make him into black puddings." Then the mother took the little boy and chopped him into pieces, put him into a pan, and made him into black puddings. But Marlinchen stood by, weeping and weeping, and all her tears fell into the pan, and there was no need of any salt. Then the father came home and sat down to dinner and said, "But where is my son?" And the mother served up a great dish of black puddings. And Marlinchen wept and could not leave off. Then the father again said, "But where is my son?" "Ah," said the mother, "he has gone across the country to his mother's great uncle. He will stay there a while." "And what is he going to do there? Did he not even say goodbye to me?" "Oh, he wanted to go and asked me if he might stay 6 weeks. He is well taken care of there." "Ah," said the man, "I feel so unhappy lest all should not be right. He ought to have said goodbye to me." With that he began to eat and said, "Marlinchen, why art thou crying? Thy brother will certainly come back." Sorry, I need some water. Where did my water go? Oh, there she is. It's been a long time since I've read this much. Let's take a moment. Yes. They totally should have put sunglasses on him and like Weekend at Bernie'd him. That would have been pretty fantastic, I think. Okay. Blue, 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 blue. With that, he began to eat and said, "Marlinchen, why art thou crying? Thy brother will certainly come back." Then he said, "Ah, wife, how delicious this food is. Give me some more." And the more he ate, the more he wanted to have. And he said, "Give me some more. You shall have none of it. It seems to me as if it were all mine." And he ate and threw all the bones under the table until he had finished the whole. But Marlinchen went away to her chest of drawers and took her best silk handkerchief out of the bottom drawer and got all the bones from beneath the table and tied them up in her silk handkerchief and carried them outside the door, weeping tears of blood. Then the juniper tree began to stir itself, and the branches parted asunder and moved together again, as if someone was rejoicing and clapping his hands. At the same time, a mist seemed to arise from the tree, and in the center of this mist, it burned like a fire, and a beautiful bird flew out from the fire, singing magnificently. And he flew high up into the air. And when he was gone, the juniper tree was as it had been before, and the handkerchief with the bones was no longer there. Marlinchen, however, was as gay and happy as if her brother was still alive. And she went merrily into the house and sat down to dinner and ate. But the bird flew away again and lighted on a goldsmith's house and began to sing. And if you know this song, now is the time that we sing along. And if you don't know the song, now is the time that you learn it, because it is fantastic. My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marlinchen, gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I. The goldsmith was sitting in his workshop making a gold chain when he heard the bird which was singing on his roof, and very beautiful the song seemed to him. He stood up, but as he crossed the threshold, he lost one of his slippers. But he went away right up the middle of the street with one shoe on and one sock. He had an apron on, and in one hand he had a golden chain, and in the other the pincers, and the sun was shining brightly on the street. Then he went right on and stood still, and said to the bird, "Bird," said he then, "how beautifully thou canst sing! Sing me that piece again." "No," said the bird, "I'll not sing it twice for nothing. Give me the golden chain, and then I will sing it again for thee." "There," said the goldsmith, "there is the golden chain for thee. Now sing me that song again." Then the bird came and took the chain in his right claw, and went and sat in front of the goldsmith and sang, "My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marlinchen, gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I." Then the bird flew away to a shoemaker and lighted on his roof and sang. And we get to sing this a bunch more times. It's fantastic. My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marlinchen, gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I. The shoemaker heard that and ran out of doors in his shirt sleeves and looked up at his roof and was forced to hold his hand before his eyes lest the sun should blind him. "Bird," said he, "how beautifully thou canst sing." Then he called at his door, "Wife, just come outside. There is a bird. Look at this bird. He just can sing well." Then he called to his daughter and children and apprentices and boys and girls, and they all came up the street and looked at the bird and saw how beautiful he was, and what fine red and green feathers he had, and how like real gold his neck was, and how the eyes in his head shone like stars. "Bird," said the shoemaker, "now sing me that song again." "Nay," said the bird, "I do not sing twice for nothing. Thou must give me something." "Wife," said the man, "go to the garret. Upon the top shelf there stands a pair of red shoes. Bring them down." Then the wife went and brought the shoes. "There, bird," said the man, "now sing me that piece again." Then the bird came and took the shoes in his left claw and flew back onto the roof and sang, "My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marlinchen, gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I." And when he had sung the whole song, he flew away. In his right claw he had the chain, and the shoes in his left. And he flew far away to a mill, and the mill went clip, 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 and not oh God, or whatever was that other one. It's that's a much more demure mill, I think. And in the mill sat 20 millers' men, hewing a stone and cutting, hick hack, hick hack, hick hack. And the mill went clip clap, clip clap, clip clap. And then the bird went and sat on a lime tree which stood in front of the mill and sang, "My mother, she killed me." Then one of them stopped working. "My father, he ate me." Then two more stopped working and listened to that. "My sister, little Marlinchen." Then four more stopped. "Gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief." Now only 8 were hewing. "Laid them beneath." Now only 5. "The juniper tree." Now only 1. Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I." Then the last stopped also and heard the last words. "Bird," said he, how beautifully thou singest. Let me too hear that. Sing that once more for me." "Nay," said the bird, "I will not sing twice for nothing. Give me the millstone, and I will sing it again." "Yes," said he, "if it belonged to me only, thou shouldst have it." "Yes," said the others, "if he sings again, he shall have it." Then the bird came down, and the 20 millers all set to work with a beam and raised the stone up. And the bird stuck his neck through the hole and put the stone on as if it were a collar, and flew to a tree again and sang, "My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, little Marlinchen, gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I." And when he had done singing, he spread his wings, and in his right claw he had the chain, and in his left he had the shoes, and round his neck the millstone. And he flew far away to his father's house. In the room sat the father, the mother, and Marlinchen at dinner. And the father said, "How light-hearted I feel! How happy I am!" "Nay," said the mother, "I feel so uneasy, just as if a heavy storm were coming." Marlinchen, however, sat weeping and weeping, and then came the bird flying. And as it seated itself on the roof, the father said, "Ah, I feel so truly happy, and the sun is shining so beautifully outside. I feel just as if I were about to see some old friend again." "Nay," said the woman, "I feel so anxious, my teeth chatter, and I seem to have fire in my veins." And she tore her stays open. That's from a corset. But Marlinchen sat in a corner crying, and held her plate before her eyes, and cried till it was quite wet. And then the bird sat on the juniper tree and sang, "My mother, she killed me." Then the mother stopped her ears and shut her eyes, and would not see or hear, but there was a roaring in her ears like the most violent storm, and her eyes burned and flashed like lightning. "My father, he ate me." "Ah, mother," says the man. "That is a beautiful bird. He sings so splendidly, and the sun shines so warm, and there is a smell just like cinnamon." "My sister, little Marlinchen." Then Marlinchen laid her head on her knees and wept without ceasing. But the man said, "I am going out. I must see the bird quite close." "Oh, don't go," said the woman. "I feel as if the whole house was shaking and on fire." But the man went out and looked at the bird. "Gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I." On this, the bird let the golden chain fall, and it fell exactly round the man's neck, and so exactly round it that it fitted beautifully. Then he went in and said, "Just look what a fine bird that is, and what a handsome gold chain he has given me, and how pretty he is." But the woman was terrified and fell down on the floor in the room, and her cap fell off her head. Then sang the bird once more, "My mother, she killed me. Would that I were 1,000 feet beneath the earth that so was not to hear." I screwed that line up. Let me try that again. "Would that I were 1,000 feet beneath the earth so as to not hear that. My father, he ate me." Then the woman fell down again as if dead. "My sister, little Marlinchen." "Ah," said Marlinchen, "I too will go out and see if the bird will give me anything." And she went out. "Gathered together all my bones, tied them in a silken handkerchief." Then he threw down the shoes to her, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Kiwit, what a beautiful bird am I. Then she was light-hearted and joyous, and she put on the new red shoes and danced and leaped into the house. "Ah," said she, "I was so sad when I went out, and now I am so light-hearted. That is a splendid bird. He has given me a pair of red shoes." "Well," said the woman, and sprang to her feet, and her hair stood up like flames of fire. "I feel as if the whole world were coming to an end. I too will go out and see if my heart feels lighter." And as she went out the door, crash! The bird threw down the millstone on her head, and she was entirely crushed by it. The father and Marlinchen heard what had happened and went out. The smoke, flames, and fire were rising from the place. And when that was over, there stood the little brother. And he took his father and Marlinchen by the hand, and all three were right and glad, and they went into the house to dinner and ate. The end. So that was a bit of fun. And that's it for tonight's vampire story time. If anybody has any requests or suggestions, feel free to comment. Let's see. Let's read some of the comments here. Oh, hi Rosalina. Hi Leo. Let's see, who else? What do we got? Nobody is disturbed by this song. They're like, yeah, no, people just kind of took the song. I mean, I guess most songs are not taken seriously. Like, what is that? That one, all the other kids with the pumped up kicks. That's about a mass shooting, but it's like a happy song. So, I mean, whatever, a good song is a good song. I think most most of my favorite songs probably have pretty dark lyrics if you look into it. If you scratch the surface even a little bit, it gets ooh, what book do I got? Oh, it's Grimm's Fairy Tales. Yeah, it's all those oldie-timey fairy tales from the deep, dark forests of Germany. So that's why. Oh, hey from Virginia. Hey from Missouri, because I'm in Missouri now. Let's see, who else? Oh yeah, it is an absolutely happy ending. I mean, it ended with dinner, which is always happy. That's the best outcome I think any story could have. When they were told correctly. I mean, Big Papa Bear, I don't know if you've been listening, but most of these stories are absolute fucking nonsense. I mean, they're relatively dark and there's a lot of violence and murder, but mostly it's just nonsense, which is fun. Like, I love that about these stories, that they're just chaotic madness, and Mills that scream out, "Oh God!" So, yeah. Anyway, if you guys have any requests, feel free to leave a comment. For my TikTok people, you can also follow this on Facebook. I'm Jackie Rabbit on Facebook, and I do the Vampire Storytime. It's like an event that you can sign up for, or however that works. And you can also rewatch it. I'm not sure if TikTok lets you rewatch stuff on my profile, but I know that on Facebook, all of these lives do stay up for a while. So if you missed any of the stories, or if you want to see any of my previous vampire stories, I mean, not vampire stories, but like, I mean, vampire, because I read it. They're not actually about vampires. Although that might be fun. I don't know if there's any good, like short vampire stories. But if anybody knows any good short vampire stories, you can definitely let me know. That would be cool. So anyway, good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite or anything else.